The sun beats down, a relentless weight on my shoulders, mirroring the pressure building inside my chest. Rows of plastic chairs gleam under the harsh light, a sea of expectant faces blurring before me. Each cap and gown on the stage is a tiny victory, a culmination of years, hopes, dreams. My daughter is up there somewhere, a blur of motion in the procession. The air is thick with the scent of sunblock, cheap polyester, and the nervous energy of parents. I can feel my husband beside me, radiating a familiar smugness, a silent judgment I've lived with for 2 decades. He shifts in his seat, clears his throat. The murmuring crowd quiets as the principal steps up to the podium. This is it. The moment. A tremor runs through me, a mix of pride for my daughter and dread for the performance I know is coming from the man beside me. He leans closer, his voice a low, cutting whisper meant only for me, yet amplified by the taut silence of the moment. His words slice through the air, sharp and deliberate, intended to wound. I freeze, the noise of the crowd, the ceremony, the world, suddenly muted to a dull roar in my ears. If you feel the weight of moments like these, the kind that shift the ground beneath you, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Drop it in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It honestly helps me more than you know. He says it just like I knew he would. Except this time, he aims it higher, makes it louder, ensures the 2 people next to us can hear. He gestures towards the stage, where our daughter's class is finally seated, a bright splash of color against the drab school building. Look at her, he murmurs, shaking his head, a performative sigh escaping his lips. So hesitant, stumbling over her robe. My eyes lock onto her, a fierce surge of protectiveness rising in my throat. She's not stumbling, she's just careful, deliberate, not clumsy, not weak. He continues, oblivious to the silent fury gathering within me. She gets that from you, you know. That weakness, he pauses, lets the word hang there between us, heavy and poisoned. He even offers a small, pitying smile, the kind that says, I'm stating a simple, undeniable fact, and it's unfortunate for everyone involved. The couple next to us subtly shift away, their eyes flicking between his face and mine. They heard. Of course, they heard. He wanted them to hear. He always wants someone to hear. My blood runs cold, then hot, a volcanic eruption threatening beneath the surface of my carefully constructed composure. 20 years. 20 years of these little cuts, these dismissive words, these public performances designed to diminish me. It started small, barely noticeable. A raised eyebrow when I voiced an opinion. A chuckle that wasn't quite a laugh when I shared an idea. A casual, oh, she wouldn't understand, to a friend when I was standing right there. It escalated slowly, like a creeping vine, until it had entirely choked the air out of the room whenever he was in it. He was the strong one, the decisive one, the one with the real job, the real ideas. I was the wife, the mother, the one who handled the domestic details, the appointments, the emotional labor he couldn't be bothered with. My work, when I dared to have any outside the home, was a hobby, a little project to keep me busy. It didn't matter if it generated income, if it involved complex negotiations, if it required strategic thinking he wouldn't even comprehend. It was always less. And because it was less, I was less. He built himself up by tearing me down, brick by painstaking brick, using my own quiet nature, my preference for substance over flash, my empathy, as evidence of my fundamental inadequacy. My patience became passivity, my thoughtfulness became indecision, my willingness to listen became lack of a backbone, and my daughter, my bright, sensitive, wonderful daughter, was now inheriting this perceived flaw, this terrible genetic defect of character. And it was my fault. In the immediate aftermath of his comment, I felt the familiar wave of shame wash over me. It was like a reflex. He presses the button, I feel shame. It's been wired into me for so long. My first instinct is to shrink, to disappear, to make myself smaller, so the target is harder to hit. I lower my gaze slightly, focusing on my clasped hands in my lap. the rough fabric of my dress, the slight trembling in my fingers. I want to respond, to lash out, to defend myself and our daughter. But the words catch in my throat, strangled by years of suppression. What's the point? He'll just twist them, use them as more proof of my emotionalism, my overreaction. He'll say I'm making a scene, ruining the day. He'll look at me with that pitying, condescending expression that is worse than any shout. So I sit there, simmering, a silent pressure cooker. The ceremony continues around me, a soundtrack to my internal turmoil. Names are called, applause rings out, but it all sounds distorted, muffled by the ringing in my ears. I feel trapped, exposed. Not just by his words, but by the years they represent. Years of letting him define me, letting his narrative become the dominant one. Years of accepting my diminished status. But something is different this time. Maybe it's seeing our daughter up there, so full of potential, so vulnerable to the world's judgments, including her own father's. Maybe it's the sheer public nature of the attack. Or maybe it's the secret I carry, the one he knows nothing about, the one that has grown silently in the shadows of his contempt. The shame is there, yes, a familiar burn. But beneath it, a new heat is rising. Anger. Cold, hard, crystalline anger. It doesn't feel explosive like past rages. It feels focused, controlled, like forging metal in a deep fire. He called me weak. He called her weak, using me as the conduit. He used this moment, her moment, to land another blow in his endless campaign to prove my inferiority. And in that moment, watching her shift slightly on the stage, looking small in her oversized gown, the decision crystallizes. This cannot stand. Not anymore. Not ever again. The internal shift is profound, instantaneous. It's not just about defending myself. It's about reclaiming the narrative. It's about showing him, showing the world, and most importantly, showing my daughter what strength really looks like. It doesn't look like his bluster, his cruelty, his need to dominate. It looks like quiet perseverance, like building something out of nothing, like waiting for the perfect moment. The decision ignites a fuse, and suddenly, the world doesn't feel muffled anymore. It feels sharp, hyperreal. The sun is blinding. The chairs are hard beneath me. Every rustle of movement, every cough in the crowd, is amplified. My thoughts race, connecting threads I hadn't consciously pulled together before. My hobby, my little project, the late nights, the endless travel he never bothered to ask about, the hushed phone calls he dismissed as me chatting with friends, all of it was building to something. Something significant. Something powerful. He had no idea. He never asked. He never cared enough to look beyond the surface, beyond the role he assigned me. And now, that willful ignorance, that arrogant dismissal, was about to become his undoing. The weeks leading up to graduation were a peculiar kind of hell. Balancing the final preparations for my daughter's milestone with the final preparations for my own, very different milestone. I had been working on securing this major sponsorship for months. It was a huge deal for the company, our biggest play yet in the local market. The target event? The city's largest, most high-profile event of the spring, the high school graduation ceremony. The very one I was now sitting at, listening to my husband dismantle my character. Every phone call I took discreetly, every email I sent from hidden accounts, every meeting I snuck in during his golf days or business trips, which I increasingly suspected involved less business and more. Other things felt like laying another wire in a complex circuit. The tension was excruciating. Smiling at him, nodding along to his self-important pronouncements about his own business triumphs, all while holding this enormous secret, this potential weapon, felt like performing on a high wire without a net. What if he found out? What if the deal fell through at the last minute? What if the announcement wasn't handled correctly? The fear of failure was paralyzing at times, a cold hand squeezing my heart. But then I would remember his face, the smirk, the casual cruelty, and the anger would surge again, burning away the fear. I wasn't just doing this for the company anymore. I was doing this for me. For my daughter. For every woman he had ever dismissed, minimized, or trampled on. There were moments the secret felt almost unbearable. Like the day he came home complaining about the exorbitant cost of graduation, the fancy decorations, the sound system. "Someone's really fleecing the school," he grumbled, completely unaware that the someone was me, through the company I had built. I had to bite back a laugh, a hysterical edge to it. I just nodded, murmured something noncommittal. He took my silence as agreement, another sign of my meekness. Each one of those moments, where his ignorance was so profound, where his contempt for what he perceived as feminine inefficiency or weakness was so blatant, added another layer of resolve to my plan. He saw me as small, irrelevant. He saw my quietness as a lack of substance. He saw my focus on building something sustainable, something meaningful, rather than chasing flashy, risky deals like his, as a sign I wasn't built for the real world of business. He was so wrong. The principal finishes his opening remarks, and the microphone is handed over to the master of ceremonies, a cheerful, booming man known for his community involvement. My heart rate quickens. This is it. The speeches by the valedictorian and salutatorian follow, full of youthful optimism and canned platitudes. I barely hear them. My focus is entirely on the MC, waiting for his cue. My husband is oblivious, probably already mentally tallying the cost of the post-graduation dinner. He leans over again, this time to point out one of his friend's children on stage.
"See?
John's kid. Headed to Stanford. That's a real achievement. Not everyone can do that." Another jab, another comparison, another way to highlight what he saw as our daughters and, by extension, my mediocrity. I just smile. A tight, knowing smile he misinterprets as resignation. Little does he know, the ground is about to open up beneath him. The MC clears his throat, taps the microphone. He begins to speak, thanking various people. The school board, the teachers, the parents. Standard stuff. And then he says it. And this year, the MC's voice booms, carrying over the hushed crowd. We have an extraordinary reason to celebrate, made possible by the incredible generosity of a local company that stepped up to ensure this graduation could be the truly special event these students deserve. Without their support, many of the elements that make today possible, the stage setup, the sound system, the commemorative programs, and even the celebratory reception that follows, simply wouldn't have been possible. We are profoundly grateful for their commitment to our community and to these bright young minds. He pauses, looks out at the crowd, a wide smile on his face. My husband shifts beside me, perhaps wondering which local business deserves such praise. He probably assumes it's one of his golf buddies' companies, some old money firm making a tax-deductible donation. The MC continues, building the suspense slightly. This company believes in investing in the future, in nurturing talent, and in empowering individuals to achieve their full potential. Their vision aligns perfectly with the spirit of this graduating class. He turns slightly, gesturing offstage, as if towards a representative. Please join me in expressing our deepest gratitude to our lead sponsor for the class of 2024. He beams. My company name? The air crackles. For a split second, there is stunned silence. Then, a ripple goes through the crowd. Heads turn. People whisper. My husband freezes beside me. I can feel his body stiffen, rigid with disbelief. His head snaps towards me, his eyes wide, searching my face. He looks genuinely, utterly blindsided. The color drains from his face, replaced by a pasty gray. His jaw slacks. The smugness is gone, vanished in an instant, replaced by naked shock and confusion. He opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. He looks like a fish out of water, gasping for air he can't find. On stage, our daughter's head whips towards us. I catch her eye. There's confusion there at first, then dawning recognition, a spark of understanding. Her eyes widen, and a slow smile spreads across her face. A genuine, radiant smile. She looks proud. Not embarrassed, not weak. Proud. Strong. I turn slightly towards my husband, meeting his stunned gaze. I don't say a word. I don't need to. My expression, I hope, conveys everything. Calm. Collected. Powerful. The woman he called weak, the one whose work he dismissed, is the reason this entire event is happening. His casual cruelty, delivered moments ago, has just been obliterated by the undeniable, public reality of my success. It wasn't just karma. It was a carefully orchestrated revelation, timed to perfection, hitting him when he was at his most arrogant and exposed. The irony is thick enough to choke on. His comment about weakness was immediately followed by the announcement of my strength, a strength that was literally funding the stage he was sitting near, the ceremony he was attending. The silence between us stretches, filled with the buzzing energy of the crowd's reaction. People are murmuring my name, our company name. Some are looking at me with new eyes, a mixture of surprise and respect. He is trapped. He can't make a scene. He can't deny it. It's announced, official, public record. He is utterly, completely blindsided. The victory tastes like cool water after years in a desert. It is sweet, pure, and absolute. The rest of the ceremony passes in a blur. The students receive their diplomas. Our daughter walks across the stage, a picture of poise and quiet confidence. Every time someone mentions the sponsorship, a small, involuntary flinch goes through my husband. He is visibly uncomfortable, agitated. He keeps glancing at me, a mixture of anger and disbelief warring on his face. The smugness has been replaced by a simmering resentment, a silent, venomous fury. But it's impotent now. His usual weapons are useless. He can't mock this. He can't dismiss this. It's too big, too public. After the ceremony, navigating the crowd is surreal. People approach me, not him. Parents I've only ever exchanged polite nods with are shaking my hand, thanking the company. Teachers are expressing their gratitude. My daughter rushes into my arms, hugging me tight. "Mom," she whispers, her voice full of awe. "You did that? Your company?" I just hold her, burying my face in her hair. "We did," I murmur back. "We built it," she understands. She sees the truth behind the facade, the strength behind the quiet. She sees that her deliberateness, her thoughtfulness, is not weakness, but a different kind of power. My husband trails behind us, a ghost at the feast. He tries to interject, to take credit, to somehow spin it. "Yes, my wife is very involved in her little business," he says to one parent, the condescending tone still there, but now it sounds pathetic, hollow. The parent just nods politely and turns back to me. He is invisible, marginalized, just as he made me feel for years. We get into the car for the drive home. The silence is thick, heavy. He finally breaks it, his voice tight with suppressed rage. "How long?" he demands. "How long have you been doing this? Hiding this?" "For a long time," I reply calmly. "Longer than you ever bothered to notice." "My God," he mutters, hitting the steering wheel with the palm of his hand. "All this time. You let me think." "I didn't let you think anything," I say, my voice steady. "You chose to think whatever suited your narrative. You chose to see what you wanted to see. And the graduation," he spits out. "Was this some kind of stunt? Some kind of revenge?" I look out the window, watching the trees blur past. "It was securing a major contract for my company," I say. And it happened to provide a very clear demonstration of exactly where weakness and strength actually lie. The air crackles with unspoken accusations, with the wreckage of a marriage built on his illusions and my silence. There's no shouting, no dramatic fight. Just this quiet, devastating realization of two lives that have diverged so completely, built on entirely different foundations. He built his on sand, on the shifting dunes of his own ego and the perceived inferiority of others. I built mine on rock, on quiet persistence, on actual achievement. And today, the tide came in and washed his away. The victory feels complex. Empowering, yes. Liberating. But also profoundly sad. Sad for the years wasted. Sad for the daughter caught in the middle. Sad for the man beside me who is so lost in his own projection. He can't even recognize the reality of the life we built, or the woman he married. The marriage, I know, is over. It ended the moment he called me weak in front of our child, the moment I realized my hidden strength was not something to protect from him, but something to wield. Walking into the quiet house feels different. The air feels lighter. The weight is gone from my shoulders. The shame is a distant echo. I am not weak. I never was. I was quiet. I was strategic. I was building. And I won. Not just the sponsorship. I won back my own definition of self. I won the right for my daughter to see strength not as a loud, cruel force, but as a deep, quiet power, capable of funding entire graduations and shattering false narratives with a single, well-timed announcement. The house feels like mine now. The future feels uncertain, but also, for the first time in a very long time, entirely my own. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen or underestimated, I'd love to hear your version in the comments below. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life. Thank you for being here.